Good day, listeners. It's me, Murray, back here with another podcast to bring to you guys today. I've got a couple things planned on talking about. Some of them more interesting than others, but most of them are quite personal, actually. Today we had a English lesson in which we watched a movie on our set work book. I thought it was quite interesting because our book's called, just hang on a second, our book is called Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee, and basically it's a novel about a man, David Lurie, who is middle-aged. He's I think he's like 52 in the book, and he has a sort of love affair with a student, and then he goes to his daughter's house in shame, and something tragic happens. I'm not sure if I want to spoil the book for you guys, because most South Africans actually have to do it as a set work book, or we do. And it was quite interesting because in the book, David Lurie is you don't perceive him as creepy, although he does creepy things. You perceive him as a romantic, someone you can probably trust. But he's relatively good looking, right? That was the assumption, and it also portrays his daughter as someone who's quite upper left about most things, and you don't expect her to be good looking. And the student he has the love affair with sort of is supposed to be good looking. And what happens in the actual movie is the people casted for the positions were not of which I imagined them to be. To me, David Lurie, like I said, was handsome, but in the movie adaptation of Disgrace, don't bash me. I'm not bashing the movie fully. There's some aspects I like about it. I think one of the main characters, Petrus, is pretty well casted, but David Lurie, he's not the best looking oak in this movie. He really is not a proper representation of his book counterpart. And the same with Lucy, actually. She's actually pretty good looking in the movie, which is interesting because they are quite polar opposites of what one would expect them to be. There's a couple other characters who aren't what I expected them to be, but without spoiling the movie or any of that, they fall quite short of their book counterparts. It's also quite interesting because they've clearly taken the dialogue for the movie directly from the book, and because there's descriptions in between all the dialogue, it makes it a lot easier to follow what's going on. But in the movie aspect of it, if you just take the lines they say in the book, it kind of makes it awkward because it kind of feels like a stage play almost, but not a good stage play, someone pretending to be a character but speaking in a voice in which you can clearly tell it was made for literacy purposes and not actually a script. It doesn't flow easily into one another and that sort of thing. That was my first little gripe. My second was the amount of stress students are put under at the end of grade 11. The problem with grade 11 is, or the second last year, I'm not sure where the listeners are from, but it's our second last year of high school. So at the end, what happens is, in South Africa, what they try do, maybe just my school does this, is they try get as much of grade 12, the final year, done in grade 11. So you're basically doing like a 3-year course from grade 10 onwards, but they try overload the matric work, which is grade 11, grade 12, into your grade 11 year, which ends up we get overloaded with tests and work, in which, like grade 11 work, in order to cover them before the exam. And what ends up happening is you spend so much time working and not actually studying for the exam. Like, the thing is, with most memory, things you've just learned stick in your memory. You'll be fine with that. But it's the thing you did in term 1 or the very beginning of the school year you just can't remember, which are what you need to spend the majority of your time going over. So it's quite interesting how teachers are quite quick to call you out on when you haven't done your work or failing to comply with the workload, but then also complain about how you're not studying if you do. It's quite frustrating. And at the same time, I play water polo, which is basically football or soccer in water. And that takes up a lot of my time. Like, it's like an average, like an hour and a half a day to 2 hours. And yeah, that's my little thing going into exams. Good fun. These are quite important ones because these are the ones that go to the universities. So yeah, I'm going to end the podcast here. If you liked what I had to say, or to somewhat degree agreed with it, please leave a like and subscribe. This is Murray on BlueMilkMuzz, signing off.